Not fair from Cantabria, there liveth a miller and his wife. And though she was fit, he was quick to admit she was the cause of much of his strife. The miller, gargant giant was he, full broad and greatly strong. But where body builds, the brain decays. He thick as bricks and always wrong. The wife, sweet Isabel, was sweet to the eye and sweet to smell. She lauded from on high upon her house, and it is her tale of which I tell. Not pleased with simple milling life, she sought a man from the town, a guide of sorts, to show her round, show new delights she had not yet found. The man did take her at her word, but more on that anon. He showed her stalls, and fine perfumes, and plants exotic, till she had her fill. She said, they have sweet smell, but none as sweet as the sweet flour of the mill. When the grain is freshly pressed and powdered up it rise, it fills the house with such a smell, it brings brimfuls to the eyes. Ah, said he, but can that compare with a fresh bun that broadly baked and risen itself to tempt the virtue of all but none? The man, he seemed a gentleman, and the lady was prevailed upon to accompany him to a barn. But it was a con. He said sweet meats were just inside. He had hidden them in the straw. But as soon as Isabel was taken in, the gentleman barred the door. Alas, the man, a wicked rogue, made full use of his adder's tongue, and forked it round her tonsils. Alas, the lass was overcome. He said, this flower has indeed a pretty smell, and I will breathe my fill, and will not stop till I have plucked the sweet flower of the mill. He stole her meagre jewellery, although it did not match him, and laughed as he took her wedding band that her husband would not catch him. Oh, although she screamed and howled most horribly, the rogue's mind was turned to devilry. To him there would be no sanctity, and he grabbed her by the ears. Then upon her quaint he fell, and pleasured himself in ways diverse. Please understand, good gentlefolk, I tell you this not to deface the goodly woman, nor to poke fun at her cockled man. I simply tell the tale, as 'twas told to me, with a misplaced sense of levity. For though it be crude and of matters base, I would not blink from telling it all, or else its moral would be lost, and its goodly point would fall. Quite spent from his wicked deed, the rogue he retired back to the tower, leaving poor Isabel to bemoan her fate, as she lay in the straw in her soiled gown. She wandered, distraught and friendless, oh me, until she came unto a stream, having kept until then to the shadows, for she wished not to be seen. Catching her reflection, she wept and wailed again, and in doing so disturbed a vixen from her den. Ay me, she cried, would I were that vixen, with temper, claws and teeth, that I could have saved myself from intrusions underneath. But look, lo, where she, ruffled but in one piece, crawls back into her digs, and I must do the same with like tail between my legs. Meantime, the miller had had much distress to find his wife had up and left. All at once he went into a towering rage, and was set a-burning. With jealousy he fumed and roared, and set the mill a-turning. together and ground the grain and ground again into flour as fine as feathers. It filled the room. They choked the miller till he opened the window wide and lost a full month's profit as the flour floated outside. It filled the sky. It clouded the clouds with white before the blue, and would in time settle down and block many a chimney flue. Him, choked, straining for breath, burst forth from the mill, and lo, beheld his humble wife straining up the hill. He, weak for breath, she, scared to death. They met with awkward pause. Oh, my husband, you are white with rage. Please let us get indoors. You whore! May nevermore! But there he held his say, for then the flower fell as snow, as on their wedding day. Man and wife were reconciled, although she had been got with child, which would in time cause much to do and drive the miller wild. But for now, in second marriage the milling couple boom, and make great whoopee as they mill their second honeymoon. But what of the road? What happened to the handy man who cuckolded the miller great, who fell upon his mighty wife? What was the rogue's fate? Well, be not afeard, for he was not unpunished, and to be short, he shortly was made dead. As I said previously, the flour fell most heavily, and did indeed block many a chimney. Well, the rogue, he had a small house, and that fair from the barn, where he had swived many a wench, and done many husbands harm. He sat himself down with some goodly bread, and some rotten meat beside, and set a fire to cook it well, and thus she was untied. For flour, I have to do this very carefully. For flour fell through the flue as fire funneled up, and fine organic matter is as flammable as fuck. Damn, so close. The smoke everywhere filled the room, and did stuff with it too. This was very good for some of them. Oh yes. It half choked him as the smoke filled the room, choked him half to death, and then exploded with a boom. Nearly there. So, there you have it. The rogue was dealt his lot, and justly got his lot. And the milling couple were joined again for convenience of plot. Thank you.